You better watch out. You better not cry. You better not pout, Kyle. I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to the DarbyCast. Hello, Kyle. DarbyCast, Wildcard Friday. I've got big news, everybody. I took a trip to the North Pole for an exclusive sit-down with none other than the big guy himself, because I wanted to hear what was really going on. Everybody has such a twisted idea about Santa and that he's just okay with everything and he's going to give you a slap on the wrist if you haven't been acting right. A lump of coal? Yeah, right. Kyle, we've known this for years, is that a lot of people have this warped view of Santa in that he is just an impotent fat guy. And it's time to set the record straight. And what better way to do that than by hearing it straight from Santa himself, Kyle? Santa doesn't give a lot of interviews, and we don't do a whole lot of interviews on the DarbyCast, period. So in a lot of ways, this is a rare treat in every direction, not unlike a candy cane, Kyle. Very tasty. But the naughty list continues to lengthen and deepen. The naughtiest of the naughty are getting naughtier. The lies continue. Santa hates liars, Kyle. He doesn't like murderers. He doesn't like thieves. He likes people with hope, compassion, authenticity, heroism, justice, integrity, monogamous relationships. That's who he likes to show up for. Now, the people on the nice list need no reminder of what I'm about to say. But the people on the naughty list, listen really closely. And Kyle, I hope that's not you. I hope that your behind the scenes this year has been on the up and up. Hope you're doing things right. But to the people on the naughty list, let me remind you of what some of you might already know and are just choosing to ignore in your prideful malevolence. He sees you when you're sleeping, and he knows when you're awake. That should startle people. It should make us all pause for a second. And when I say all of us, I'm being pretty generous. I'm really just speaking to the people on the naughty list, and boy, do you know who you are. Don't think that you can just erase an entire year of nonsense by putting on some buble and hanging up some stockings. That's not how it works. Santa is keeping tabs on everybody. How's he doing that? Elves who look like children. Elves with very fashionable beanies to hide their pointy ears, Kyle. That neighborhood kid who's always just hanging around, Kyle, he is not who you think he is. His name's Gingledorf, and he's 800 years old, at least. And over the span of 8 centuries, he's gotten pretty good at tailing people and taking a full inventory of what they're about. And Gingledorf's good, right? He's one of the best. But Santa's gone above and beyond this year. Oh boy, has he. Santa has wiretapped a couple houses, mainly those of pharmaceutical executives and big tech moguls, mass media, C-level execs, Kyle. He bugged their phones. Just a little Christmas reversal on these people who are pro-surveillance. If you have nothing to hide, then you should have nothing to fear. People on the naughty list. That's what they say, right? These creeps who are just watching everybody all the time, listening in. It's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, and I tell you who knows it. Mrs. Claus, Kathy H. Claus. Legal scholar, great at baking. But she's also a mom, Kyle. At the end of the day, not a lot of people talk about Santa's kids. Santa has kids. The elves are not his children. Let's make that crystal clear. Santa's not just going into the woods having extramarital nonsense with elvish women. He's not. But Kyle, let's get into the interview. That's what everybody wants to hear. So without further ado, here's my sit down with Kris Kringle. Mr. Claus, hello. Thank you for having me at your amazing establishment, otherwise known as your compound.
Thanks for making the trip, Maverick. I guess thank you too, Kyle. Good job, Kyle.
So, Mr. Kringle, Kris, can I call you Kris?
Of course.
Great. Kris, what's been going on for you in this past year? Everybody's been wondering what you've been up to. Obviously, the state of the world is more chaotic and calamitous than any of us are really comfortable with. But why don't you just walk me through your process?
Sure thing. Mrs. Claus is pregnant again. I have just been pumping her rotten. Also, I've been working overtime in the workshop to get everything aligned for what many of the elves have described as a Christmas they're not quite comfortable participating in.
First off, let me just say congratulations on the impending child. Boy, girl, what's the name going to be?
Another boy. That will be our 12th child. His name shall be Jimmy Claus.
Not my first choice for a name, but then again, it's not my kid. But let's pivot. What is going on with the elves that has them kind of insubordinate? I don't like that. I don't like hearing when the rank and file is going against the grain of leadership. That really upsets me, Kris, in a huge way.
I hate insubordination as well. However, the elves have legitimate concerns. This year, rather than delivering fentanyl-laced gumdrops or pipe bombs to the naughty list, I've concocted a different plan. Mrs. Claus is behind me on it, and that speaks to her knowing who's the hen and who's the rooster at the end of the day.
My goodness, is that refreshing to hear, is when a gal just knows when to say when and just get with the program. So rare is that, Kris?
I wifed up Kathy because she's not one of those uppity city broads who complains about fucking everything. Kyle, take notes, buddy.
You heard the man, Kyle. Take some fucking notes. Kris is over here giving you a roadmap for relational success, and you're doing Lord knows what, just farting around on your phone. Why don't you tune in, Kyle? Get your head in the game. Kris, my sincerest apologies for Kyle's lack of professionalism. Really sloppy.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
Kyle, that's not true. He's just being nice to you. You are screwing up in a very alarming way right now. And let's just remember, this isn't the Kyle show. Never has been. It isn't now. And it never will be. So get locked in, okay? Take some notes and do a good job. Kris, back to what has got the elves so unsettled. What is that even about? Can you get into your plans a little bit?
I'd be happy to. This year I'm going to kidnap a few thousand people. Mainly pharmaceutical executives, unelected bureaucrats, tech moguls, and corporate fat cats. Also, I'll be abducting people who say, Happy Holidays! It's Merry Christmas. End of story. Roll credits. Go fuck yourself.
Really well said. I am totally bought in on all of that. It sounds ambitious, though. So how are you gonna get all these people rounded up and bring them? Where are you gonna bring them, by the way, once you have them?
Great question. I have a robotic army made out of Christmas cheer and steel who will be rounding everyone up, putting them in candy cane cages and bringing them up here to the North Pole. When they're here, that's when the real fun begins.
Phenomenal. Now, I don't want to be the guy who says that sounds super illegal or ethically dubious, but I'm guessing that's some of the feedback that you've gotten from the elves. What would you say to somebody who wasn't all in on this really inventive Christmas miracle that you have in the works?
That's inconsequential. Nobody can stop me. Ha 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 ha.
Can I just say how refreshing it is to hear that you're not willing to let anybody or anything get in the way of your vision, and you're having a pretty good time with it. Work hard, play hard. Am I right, Chris?
Yes.
Okay, so you get all these people up to the North Pole using your robots. Then what? What's that all going to look like?
The re-education process is multifaceted. I, with a steely resolve, will oversee the operation, ensuring that each method aligns with the overarching goal of redemption and restitution.
So smart. Without proper project management, you could totally fall behind on your deadlines. But walk me through the re-education process. What does that look like?
One of the primary techniques involves the relentless playing of the Michael Bublé Christmas album at max volume, while the detainees dig their own graves with wooden spoons. The songs will play day and night until the job is done. Also, if they break their spoon, Mrs. Claus will shoot them in the face with a shotgun.
Tough, but fair. You know, I want to celebrate your creativity in weaponizing Michael Bublé. I bet you a lot of people would think that that's not something that could ever be pulled off, but if they hear this, they're going to be feeling pretty stupid. What other kind of re-education techniques do you have in store? If any of them are in the same zip code as this, then I'm pretty excited to hear about it.
Physical re-education will include a rigorous regimen of building toys by hand.
That doesn't sound so bad.
I wasn't done explaining. You interrupted me.
I am so sorry, Chris. I mean it. Please continue.
Right. So, they'll be making toys by hand while covered in seal blood in an enclosure surrounded by polar bears. If they don't make the toys fast enough, or if the quality is sloppy, Mrs. Claus will shoot them in the face with a shotgun.
Wow. I want to ask something, but I'm afraid it might be a stupid question.
No, go ahead.
Great, thanks. The seal blood, the polar bears, like what's their purpose? I feel so ignorant asking this, but if Mrs. Claus is ultimately just going to shoot people in the face, what's the point of the seal blood and the polar bears?
That's a fine question. The seal blood and polar bears are more of an artistic play. Total tone setter.
It is so rare to find somebody who's committed both to excellence and to showmanship, and you've just got both in spades. I'm guessing there's more to the process, though. You probably have a couple other re-education techniques in your back pocket, do you not, Chris?
I sure do. One of my favorite techniques is called the bridge. Basically, I just push people off a bridge, and if they live, Mrs. Claus shoots them in the face with a shotgun.
Simple but effective, Chris. You know, they say that it takes an idiot to take something simple and make it complicated, but it takes a genius to make something complicated simple. So, I don't know, you're kind of walking into this compliment. I'm setting you up pretty well. I think you're a genius, Chris. Please continue telling me about what you've got going on.
Actually, let's hit pause for a second. I have to ask you something.
By all means, Chris, ask away.
What do you want for Christmas this year?
Boy, are you putting me on the spot, Chris. There is something. I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna. I want a rocket launcher.
Ho, ho, ho. Smart choice.
See, that's what I was telling Kyle. Better to have one and not need it than to need it and not have one. Am I right, Chris? Like, we're seeing this in the same way, are we not?
100%. Fuck you, Kyle.
Okay. Take it easy, Chris. Let's get back to what you're up to. Keep going, because the ideas that you have plotted out are so clever.
All right. Check this out. I don't have a name for it yet, but I'll hook people up to the reindeer using a noose made out of Christmas lights. Then the reindeer will gallop over to Mrs. Claus, who will shoot the people in the face with a shotgun.
You keep wowing me with everything that you have planned. I don't know how it's possible. It's just like home run after home run after home run. You know, if I were a betting man, Chris, I would say that you're probably saving the best for last and that you've got some grand slam of a creative idea up your sleeve. You've been withholding something, Chris, you old dog. I can just see it on your face.
Guilty as charged. My favorite re-education measure has to be injecting everyone with COVID-19 vaccines and then cutting off their genitals. That's only the first part, though. Next, I'll have elves who are great at acting befriend the prisoners and promise to break them out of the compound. The elves will lead them out of the facility in the middle of the night and tell them there's an evacuation team ready to get them to safety. But then...
Wait, let me guess. Mrs. Claus will be there waiting to shoot them in the face with a shotgun.
Shoot them in the face with a shotgun, yes.
Be careful, Chris, or you and I are going to start finishing each other's...
Sentences?
Oh, Chris. Well, this has been an absolute treat, man. Thank you so much for having me up here. I'm really sorry that you feel like you're out of options. But at the end of the day, I also kind of get it. It's like, why do people on the naughty list want to keep going for the high score? Like, haven't they done enough damage? Why are they not being brought to justice? What the heck is going on?
Totally.
So I guess what I'm trying to say here is thank you for stepping up and doing what everybody has been thinking about for a really long time. Because I know that the things that you've told me about have just been on everybody's mind and on the tip of their tongue. But here you are. You go out of your way to lay it all on the line and say to hell with anybody who's trying to stop me. So rare. Let me just celebrate everything about you, Chris. You know, I knew I would enjoy this interview, but I just wasn't sure how much. It's almost like an uncomfortable amount, but in a positive way.
I'm just glad you made it up here. Kyle, it was okay that you were here, I guess. I can't say you were essential, but maybe I'm not looking at things correctly.
No, Chris, honestly, like, you're dead on. Kyle was dead weight this whole time. I'm kind of embarrassed to call him my colleague right now. It's going to be a long trip back to the States, I can tell you that much.
Perhaps I can make your trip a bit more bearable with these apple pies that Mrs. Claus made. The secret ingredient is love.
You are such a good guy. By the way, how are we doing on time? I know this is, like, you have so many things to do, and I don't want to impose, but there is something that I've been dying to ask you.
Shoot from the hip, nigga.
Whoa. That kind of caught me off guard. I didn't realize how cool you were. But my question is, if you could be an animal, what would you be?
Probably a dragon. Yeah, I'd say dragon for sure. The sade, queso si sweet, barbaros.
I didn't really catch that last part, but like dragon, such a cool choice. So fucking sick.
I know, right?
I just had one more question before we wrap this up. Let's say any of these people that you bring up north for your project, do any of them get to go home?
Absolutely not. Ha 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 ha.
Fair enough. Who are they to dictate the terms of anything at this point? My goodness.
Right. The people who'll be coming up here are war criminals, murderers, thieves, and rapists. They know what they've done. Anyway, Merry Christmas!
Chris, did you just have like a stroke or something?
Maybe.
Kyle, call 911. What do you mean you don't have cell service? You know, this is why I've told you so many times before, Kyle. Get rid of Boost Mobile. Sure, it's a lot cheaper, but when it matters, where's the coverage?
Rahoba! Garbe!
Boy, I'll say, Chris. Kyle, go get Mrs. Claus right now. This is an emergency. Mrs. Claus, we have a situation! So yeah, that was the interview with Santa. He's fine, by the way. No thanks to you, Kyle. That was so scary. Can we just say that? My major takeaways from that interview were probably the same as yours. 1, Santa is a really good dude. 2, how amazing is his wife? Just totally bought in on his program. 3, what an honest guy who's just not afraid to tell you what he's up to. There's so many people, okay, Kyle, that don't tell you what's going on in their lives. And it's like, how are we supposed to have a real relationship if you won't let me in? That's not the game that Santa's playing. Kyle, if cell phones and data plans weren't so expensive, I would get you a phone for Christmas. And it wouldn't be Cricket Wireless. I'll tell you that much. I know you're thinking about moving away from Boost, but don't go from a mistake to another mistake. Do you understand? I just want to say I'd be really freaked out by that interview if I were on the naughty list. I'm not, thankfully. I've been working pretty hard to stay in a good lane. There are so many opportunities in this world of ours, Kyle, to fall off the deep end and get wrapped in vice and chicanery, tomfoolery, skullduggery, hoopla, baloney, Kyle, at every turn. Whether it's in the digital world or whether it's drugs. Kyle, you remember that when you almost got addicted to drugs? Not okay, right? But here's the good news about all that, Kyle. A lot of these temptations that are being pushed towards people, those are going away because those people who are pushing the really sketchy stuff on everybody are going up north, if you catch my drift. And then the moral fabric of the country starts to look a little bit less chaotic. The moral fabric of the country is so frayed right now, Kyle, because of the nonsense that people on the naughty list want to push on everybody. I'm sick of it. We've been sick of it. And we've wondered for the longest time who was going to step up. None other than Kris Kringle. But some of you might be wondering right now, and rightfully so, what if Chris has another stroke? Will he be able to follow through with his plans? I don't know. In the event that a lot of the most powerful people in the world who are super low ethics, in the event that they don't go missing this Christmas, that's how we know that Santa's not doing well from a health standpoint, Kyle. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, so we'll just kind of like wait and see if that happens. But Santa had a lot of really good ideas. Let's just call it out. He's a total visionary, and he gets it. Now, for legal reasons, I want to discourage anybody who's thinking about picking up Santa's torch and running with it if he doesn't execute. Don't pick up Santa's torch, okay? santastorch.com. But if you're a mall Santa and you're listening to this and you're thinking to yourself, like, what do I care? Maybe I just go for it. I can't stop you from doing that. If you get caught, you're a lone wolf and your motives are unclear. You didn't get any of these ideas from anybody other than Santa Claus. If you are apprehended, that's on you, okay? Send this episode to somebody who's on the naughty list this year, who you just have a very strong hunch, like that guy's a dirtbag, or that chick is such a sleaze. But also send this episode to people who are on the nice list, who need a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of hope. They need to have that flame in their heart rekindled this Christmas season. Say Merry Christmas to people. Remind them that Christmas is not about conspicuous consumption. It's about our Lord and Savior, JC, and his birth. The King of Kings, Kyle. That's what Christmas is about. But it's also about justice. And we've learned that today through our interview with Santa. Let me just keep hammering home the point of the official stance of the DarbyCast, all of its listenership, myself and Kyle. We are a nonviolent style podcast, okay? We take defensive measures. It's not as though force is out of our wheelhouse, but you don't go looking for a fight. If you're Santa Claus, you can do whatever you want, right? That's always been abundantly clear. But if you're a person just listening to this, maybe just like keep it within reason. Don't fire unless fired upon. But you could make the argument that the people who are making everybody's lives miserable right now, boy, have they been firing a lot of shots. Those shots just happen to not be made out of bullets. I just want everybody to have a Merry Christmas. That's the big takeaway at the end of the day, is I want you to have a Merry Christmas. I want you to spend time with family. But I want you to discuss Santa's process a little bit and say, would you be comfortable if this happened? Let me shoot my hand up. I wouldn't shed a tear. I wouldn't bat an eye. Has my heart gone cold, or is my heart totally full of Christmas cheer? That's for everybody to decide and ask themselves. But that's going to do it for DarbyCast Wildcard Friday. We're going to take a little bit of a Christmas break, and we'll be back in 2024, Kyle. Okay. Merry Christmas.